All right, guys, so let's talk about the first reason why we do the false read. So I'm going to outline sort of 5 principles of why we should do this move. And the first one is going to be how hard it is to get your back taken when you're attempting these moves. The common counter to heel hook entries is basically to take the back, berimbolo, wedge style back takes. And the reason that is because Tyler's standing above me here. A lot of leg lock entries, we have to invert. And I'm not just inverting with my hips on the ground. If my hips are on the ground, very tough for Tyler to take my back. But if I want to attach myself to one of his legs, I have to lift my hips off the ground. And if you understand some of the basic principles of wedge style back takes, we use the wedge to create back exposure by lifting the hips off the ground. So if I'm ever inverting to attack Tyler's legs, I'm quite vulnerable to these wedge style back takes here. And we really are taking a big risk attacking these. So look at it from a few angles. Again, basically, a lot of these entries involve me being upside down here. So you can see if my hips are off the ground, there's space within the hips. Tyler can dive his knee through and start attacking the back here. And even some of the entries we hit where we actually get to the legs, say something like a standing outside ashi here, Tyler can still take my back here because my hips are off the ground, right? So what the false read does for us is it sort of protects us a lot from these wedge style back takes. So when we throw in this reap here and I reinforce on the leg, if Tyler's trying to look to take my back here, my hips are off the ground. I'm not quite inverted here, but I've got control of his leg in such a way that these back take style entries will be difficult. So I think why the false read is so effective and so commonly used in competition today is the number one reason that we are protecting ourselves from counter back takes. Quite often, like me, myself, I moved away a little bit from the heel hook entries because I found that it was quite a bit of risk versus reward going for this, right? So initially when we started doing heel hooks, the reward was quite huge because basically everyone else was so unfamiliar with the positions. Getting to the position was a guaranteed victory. Basically, if I got to a leg lock position, I guaranteed heel exposure and ultimately got the heel hook. But as people's defense got better, the position itself wasn't as much of a reward. So quite often I could find myself in those positions, but guys' defense or ability to hide the heel had significantly improved and my success rate of the finish had decreased. And then as we progress further, as people get more comfortable with their defense, they start to explore more counter opportunities. So therefore, when I would invert and look to attack the legs with things like any sort of standing Imanari style inversion to attach to the legs, they would start counter back taking. Because again, to them, they were comfortable taking the risk of my heel hook entry just to generate back exposure to take my back. Because again, the risk to them was much lower now that their heel hook defense had improved. They weren't potentially giving away as much as they had once upon a time. So I believe the false read, and the number one reason it's used so often in competition today, is because it provides a safe way to enter the legs that's going to mitigate the risk of back take. And we're going to go, again, deeper into this topic, but basically once you get elbow deep around the leg we're trying to attack, we immobilize that leg and we control the direction they can turn and really manipulate our body as we go upside down to attack the legs. And if Tyler loses his ability to manipulate me to create a wedge style back take, he loses his ability to take the back from here. So basically, again, number one reason why I'm a big fan of the false read today is because the counter back take opportunity is significantly less than most other heel hooking positions out there, right? So any of your reverse De La Riva style entries, any of your De La Riva style single X to Ashi entries, those are going to have much higher back taking opportunities. And I guess this falls in line with why Lachlan Giles started to use the K-guard so much, because the K-guard positioning of the inside foot mitigated the risk of counter back takes. And I'm also going to show you how the false reap defense can lead into K-guard. So we can attack the standing opponent with multiple styles of leg lock entries that kill the number one counter, and that is the wedge style back takes. All right, number two reason why I think